I'm Larry Richardson, your step-by-step chef. In this episode, we're going to make mussels with or without white wine sauce into a delicious pasta sauce. We have the mussels all cooked up, we have our broth ready to go, and now I'm going to show you how to turn this into probably one of the most delicious seafood pasta dishes you've ever had. So come on, let's cook. So here are the ingredients we're going to use to turn our mussels. We have about 1.5 pounds of cooked mussels. How we're going to turn this into a delicious pasta sauce. I'm going to use the mussels, of course, 1/4 cup of parsley, 1 celery stalk, 1/4 cup of red onion, 4 garlic cloves, 3 tablespoons of butter, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Now let me show you how to put this all together. Now what I want to do is just separate out the mussels from the shells. Because, you know, some people like the dishes that you get in some restaurants where you have your shells, the seafood's in the shell, the clams, the mussels, the whatever. I can't stand that. I hate picking through shells on top of pasta to eat my dinner. I just can't stand it. So what I do is I just prepare everything ahead of time, and then when I serve it on top of the pasta, which is cooking right now, my angel hair spaghetti, when I serve it, all you're getting is all the superb tastes. You're not getting all the shell. You don't have to work with it. And honestly, I just have never figured out how to eat one of those dishes without getting the seafood all over your hands. If you take the meat out, which it is time consuming for a restaurant and probably too time consuming, but not at home. If you take the protein out of these shells, the seafood out of these shells ahead of time, the shrimp, the clams, the mussels, the quahogs, whatever it is, then you don't have to mess with it at the table. So I guess that's one of my pet peeves. So here I am. I'm just taking a little time, and I do this with my shrimp dishes too. I'm just taking the time to take the mussels out of the shells and put them into this bowl. And when you pick the mussels, here's what you end up with. Okay, so I put those mussels that we picked into the refrigerator so they'll stay nice and fresh while we saute our vegetables that are going to add an enormous amount of taste to this mussels pasta sauce. So I have my celery right here. I cut it in half lengthwise, and now we're just making really, really thin slices. Celery and seafood goes so nicely together. So this makes nice little bite-sized pieces that mix in quite nicely with this broth. So this comes out to about 1/4 cup of finely chopped or minced, almost minced celery. Let's just put that right into our pan. And now we'll finely mince our 1/4 cup of red onion. So I'm cutting the top off. Get rid of all this paper. And sometimes you have to cut a little bit deeper into a red onion. And you can use sweet onion or yellow onion, but I find that red onion adds a very unique flavor to this dish. They can be a little bit hot and a little bit sweet at the same time. So there's a complexity to red onion. But what I don't want is I don't want like these tough pieces in this dish. You just don't want people to slam on the brakes because we cut a corner on one of the ingredients. I mean, don't you notice like if something gets either or chewy or crunchy when it really shouldn't be? Well, red onions is an example of that if they're not handled right. So I see like a little, and they're all a little bit different. There we go. There's a nice clean face on that red onion. Okay, so to make our 1/4 cup, I'm just scoring the top real close. And then I'm doing it perpendicular, so basically just in the other direction. And then I'm just cutting down the face until we have a 1/4 cup. And you can see it's mincing it quite nicely. I don't want big pieces of onion in this. The onion should not stand out at all. It's really a flavorant. And actually the red onion adds a little bit of color to it too. So there's our 1/4 cup, and I just want to make sure those pieces are nice and little. There we go. Nice and minced. So I'm putting that right into our pan. A nice little nice little fry pan. Okay. And now here comes our parsley. And as I've told you in past videos, I don't like stemmy parsley, and this one is very stemmy. So I need to pick the leaves off of it, just so that we don't end up with something that's like crunchy parsley stem. To me, that's like biting into, like eating chicken wings and biting into a bone or any other dish. I really don't like that. So I always break the leaves off, and then we'll mince these leaves up. And there we go. Now sometimes I get parsley and it is just tender from the get-go. It does not have these huge stems, and I can cut it right down from the top. That is so easy when I'm cooking. This was not one of those parsleys, but I can tell you one thing about this parsley. It's extremely fresh. I mean, it is filling up my kitchen with that sweet and almost pungent parsley aroma. So I'm just mincing it down. You don't want big leaves of parsley. It's really an herb for flavor in this dish, not texture. So there we go. There's our parsley. And next up, let's crush our garlic into the mix. Now, if you don't have a garlic crusher like this, just mince the garlic as fine as you can. I'm sure it will give up its flavor when we're sauteing the vegetables. And sometimes to get these garlic presses to work, you got to cut the garlic in half. But what I love about these is they separate out the paper without a lot of fuss. And I really love my garlic. You can add more or less than I did. Totally up to you. But I think the garlic really makes this dish. And now let's just add our olive oil. And you can add a little bit more if you want. In fact, you can add more olive oil and skip the butter if you want. It's totally up to you. But I do find the butter adds a certain satiny texture and some saltiness to the dish that is quite delicious. And here's our butter. And then the last thing we're adding to our saute is the salt. Now I'll meet you over at the stove. And my stove is set on medium. I'm just helping the butter to melt down. And this will be a very quick saute. Once we see the onions start to look just a little bit translucent, just slightly clear, we'll know that the saute is done, and this will be ready to go into the mussel broth. So you can see the butter's melting down quite nicely. And now we're just waiting for those onions to start to turn clear. Just they turn translucent, we know they're ready. And honestly, This smells delicious, just on its own. I'm a garlic lover. So now we have a nice little saute going. Watch those onions. And what this does is it really melds the different flavors. If I had just thrown this right into the broth, then you'd have like these solid veggies and herbs, but you wouldn't have that flavor, that rich flavor, mixed into the butter and the olive oil. This makes all the difference in this mussel broth that we're making. So this is over medium heat, and I can see the onions are starting to turn translucent. And so is the celery, actually. And it smells delicious. We're going to add this to our simmering broth. Okay, so our mussel broth is simmering. And again, this is the purified version. We got all of the shells out. Now this is really quick. So all we want to do is add in our vegetable mix, stir that in, get those flavors all mixed into this. Give it a nice stir. It's looking nice and hot. Smells delicious. And then what we're going to do is add our already cooked mussels and get it off the stove. I don't want those mussels to shrink down any further than they are. Oh wow, that is rich. Now just get that off the stove. So congratulations, look at what you just did. You just made this delicious mussels and pasta dish. I mean, it is tasty. You can see the mussels, the veggies, you have the herbs, you got the garlic, it's all mixed in. Now if you want a printable recipe for this dish, please visit stepbystepchef.com. There you will find the printable version of this recipe along with the printable version of many other delicious recipes, and as a bonus, you're going to find links to easy to follow step-by-step videos for every single recipe. So my name is Larry Richardson. I am your step-by-step chef, and I'll see you in the next episode.